We're now on the top of Chav Zayin Amid Beis. Ubi Yontif, Shiule Komishayel, Rabbi Ami asked the question whether or not there was any hanky-panky going on. He starts investigating the Kohen who owns the Bechor. So again, Rabbi Ami already in his mind had made a determination that this Bechor was a Baal Mum. But he starts interrogating on Yontif the Kohen Baal HaBechor. Hechi Avi Uvda. How did it become a Baal Mum? Did you deliberately make it into a Baal Mum, or it happened as a natural consequence? The Bechor slipped on a banana peel and broke its neck. Once he made the determination that it was a mum shenafal me'elav, that it was natural, then on Yontif he was matir. And this is different. Why? It's not what you call nirik kemisakin or nirik kedin. Really, all the pieces of the puzzle were there on Erev Yontif to determine that this is a Bechor Baal Mum. The Mumcha, Rabbi Ami in this case, had already seen it and determined in his mind it's a Baal Mum. He procrastinated giving the final ruling until he would finally investigate and convince himself that there was nothing illegitimate going on here, that there was no deliberate act of creating a Baal Mum. And that is already clarification. That's already a biru. The determination itself, as what we call a tikkun or a din, that took place on Erev Yontif. So everything is fine. There was a birur, a clarification that had to be worked out, and that took place on Yontif itself. And the Gemara gives a similar case of Rava, who gavra the icy buchel kami de Rava. Somebody brought a bechor in front of Rava. Apanya demali yoma tava was Erev Yontif. And when it says apanya demale, it means right before Shkia. It was at the end of the day. It was right before Yontif, and Rava was shampooing his hair in honor of Yontif. Doli Eine, he just took a little bit of a glimpse at the animal, and he saw that it was a mum kavua. Rava was an expert in Bechoros. But he didn't have a chance at that last moment when he's shampooing his hair to investigate how did that mum come about. Amalei. So Rava said to the Kohen, he said to him, Zilha idna, go away now. V'salamacha, come back tomorrow on Yontif. I'll give you a final answer. Kiyasalamacha, Omar, Rava says to him, Hechi aviyovda. Tell me the story. How did this animal, how did this Bechor become a Baal Mum? Amalei. So the Kohen responds, Havishadyon Sari or Bali, the Seorim. And Shadyon means to throw something. So they were like thrown kernels of barley. Bahach Gisa de Huta. Right next to Huta. Huta means in Hebrew kotzim, thorns. So there was like a thorn bush, and the animal wanted to eat the barley, and it brushed up against the thorn bush. Vahavi iu beidok gisa. So the Bechor was on one side of the gate. Bahadi de boile mechel, and since the Siorim were on the other side, but the animal did not pay attention to the fact that there were thorns, Utzi, is Ayel Reshe, he puts his head, the animal puts his head through the thorns, Upate Hutzel, and one of the thorns cut his lip. Amalei, so Rava was still a little bit suspicious. Meaning, didn't you know that there were thorns over there on the side of the gate and right where the barley was? I mean, it looks a little bit suspicious. Maybe you inadvertently caused the animal, you didn't do it directly, to become a balmum? Amalei lo. I didn't feed the animal deliberately in a place where it would become a balmum. And then Rava relied on him. The Meiri says he had to bring Edim to testify. But in any event, Rava was matir the Shmita. Gemara asks a question on Rava now. Minot tamer de grama asur. Although it's true, no doubt about it, the Torah prohibits creating a mum in an animal that's hegdesh. But how do you know, Rava, that it's prohibited to do it in an indirect way? Sanya, we learned in the Beitza, in the parsha of Mumin of Karbanos, and Bechar is included in Vayikuch of Beitz. It says, V'ish ki akriv zevach shlamim tamim yeh l'ratzon kol mum lo yeh bo. Ainli ela shalo yahaye bo shalo yeh bo mum. Or shalo yahaye bo mum. You have to put the right vocals here in the kudos. All I know so far is that you're not allowed to create a mum deliberately and actively. How do we know the Torah even enjoins us from indirectly causing the animal to have mum? For example, what happens is if that you attach some very attractive food stuff to the ear of the animal, the dogs will jump and try to get that food, which is called batzek odvela. And he knows very well that by doing so, he's setting a trap here. The animals are going to jump on it. And when the animals jump on the ears of, when the dogs jump on the ears of the animal, then they're going to create a mum. They'll injure the animal. Let's say they'll grab onto his ear. So how do I know that that's prohibited, to set a trap so that the animals will come and make this bechar, the dogs will make this bechar into balmum? Talmud lomar, kol mum lo yeh bo. So the Gemara explains, Omar mum, the Omar kol mum. If he would have just said the word mum, we would have understood. You're not allowed to create actively, deliberately a mum in the animal. But kol mum is a ribui that teaches you're not allowed to even be gorem indirectly that the animal should become a balm. And the Mishnah deals with behemoth's kachim, which going into Yontif, it was a healthy animal apparently, and then it died on Yontif. Died of old age on Yontif. And the Mishnah is going to establish that such an animal is mukt. Because going into Yontif was behemoth's kachim. You're not allowed to have any benefit from it. Behemoth shebesa lo yazizena mimkomi. You can't move the carcass of the animal when it died on Yontif. It's a behemoth's kachim. Umaisa v'sholos Rabbi Tarfon oleh. This animal died on Yontif. They asked Rabbi Tarfon, are they allowed to move the carcass? V'al chala shenitnes. Apparently, they asked two questions. Chala has to be tahora. In this case, the sheretz fell on the dough, and the challah contracted tumah. Is it muktzah on Yontif? Nichlas a Beis HaMedrash, Rabbi Tarfon himself apparently was not sure, and therefore he went into the Beis Medrash to ask the various scholars in the Beis Medrash. Let's get some sort of representation of the scholars. And they said to him, Lo yazizim mikoma. It's muktzah. And the reason why it's muktzah, the Gemara is going to clarify later, is for the same reason that chalash and nitmes is muktzah, because chalash and nitmes is asura b'achila. The kohen is not allowed to eat challah tmeya. All he has to do is burn it. And we have a loch of ein mevarim kodshim tmeim beyond, or truma tmeya beyond. So the Gemara says, lema tnan stoma delo ki Rabbi Shimon. Shall we assume that we have a stam mission against Rabbi Shimon? Isanya, because the Beitza records the shita of Rabbi Shimon. You're allowed to cut vegetables, in this case gourds, in order to feed the animals on Shabbos. Again, you have to keep in mind the delunim are not attached to the ground. Already on Erev Shabbos, he had cut it off. And now he slices it into smaller pieces in order to feed his animals, and that's mutter. Ves hanavelon, likewise, Rabbi Shimon allows you to take a dead animal, even if it died on Shabbos, and feed its carcass, its flesh, with klavim for the dogs. Now, going into Shabbos, Ben Hashmachos, there was no achon over here for klavim because the animal was alive and it dropped dead on Shabbos. But yet, Rabbi Shimon holds there's no din of muktzah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda is the famous bar plukta of Rabbi Shimon, especially in the sugya of muktzah. Im lo hoysed available Erev Shabbos, if it only died on Shabbos, asura. You're not allowed to touch the carcass of the animal that dropped dead on Shabbos, even for the sake of feeding the hungry dogs. And now we have a stam mishnah that the behemoth that died on Yom Tov is asura b'tiltul, reflecting the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, stama delok Reb Shimon. Now that's problematic because we pass like Reb Shimon. So, and we also pass like a stam mishnah, an anonymous mishnah. So this is a problem. So Gemara answers it's not a problem at all. Afilu Tamer Rabbi Shimon, we can reconcile Reb Shimon with our mishnah. Mod Reb Shimon Bali Chaim Shemesu Chasurim. So at this point in the sugya, the Gemara thinks that if you have a healthy animal and it drops dead on Shabbos, then even Reb Shimon would agree that it's muktzah. You're not allowed to move it. Because he had no idea, no anticipation in his mind on Erev Shabbos, going into Shabbos Ben Hashmosh, that the animal would die. It was a perfectly healthy animal. It just won the local prize, with has that ribbon around, they got the local, what do they call it? The carnival, saying it was the most healthy animal. And therefore, when Rabbi Shimon said in the Beitza that Machatchim es hadavelu lifnei klavim, he was talking about a different case entirely, not a healthy animal that dropped dead all of a sudden, unanticipated on Yom Tov, but rather an animal that was about to die, and it made it until Yom Tov, and then it died on Yom Tov. So Gemara says, Hanicha, that makes sense going to one interpretation of Shimon, Limar bar amema, Mishmei de Rava, Tiyom Moder Ayur Reb Shimon Bali Chaim, Shemesu Shasurim. It works out very well according to this interpretation of Shimon, that of Rava, namely that if the animal is perfectly healthy and it drops dead on Shabbos, then even Reb Shimon agrees that it's muktzah. Ella, but what are you going to tell me? Lemar Bereid Rav Yosef Mishmei de Rava. There's another tradition in the name of Rava. The Omar Cholak Hoyer of Shimon Afilu b'Bali Chaim, meaning healthy Bali Chaim Shemesu b'Shabbos Shemutarim. Which means, by the way, that Reb Shimon holds that even an animal that's alive, healthy, and well going into Shabbos, the Bailim somehow in their subconscious mind have the idea, the intention that if the animal dies, we'll feed its carcass to the dogs. Is Ma'ikal of Nema? Then we certainly cannot reconcile the Mishnah with Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara says no. Targamua, you got to really understand our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is not talking about a regular behemoth chulin, but rather the Iri tells us that it's a behemoth kodshim. The behemoth was kodshim, and it died on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. And it's not roy for any tashmish whatsoever because behemoth kodshim shemesa is asur ba'ana. And Reb Shimon therefore would concede that it's muktzah and lo yazizenim imkoma. That's our Mishnah. And now the Gemara is saying, I'm going to prove to you that our Mishnah is not talking about a behemoth chulin, but rather behemoth hegdesh. Nami diktani, they asked Rabbi Tarfon, Alel, on this question, ala chalosh and nitbes. Not only the behemoth that died, but also on chalosh and nitbes. Ma chala de kedisha, af behemoth de kedisha, just like chala has the status of, it's actually called truma in the Torah, it has Kedushas Truma. So to the animal here that's mentioned in one breath together with the Challah is also Behemas Kodshim. And in Behemas Kodshim that died on Yontif, even Rabbi Shimon would agree that it's Muktzah. Hello, so now let's read the Mishnah. The Mishnah talks about a case of Behemas Kodshim, and therefore it's Muktzah, implying that if it would have been a Behemas Chulin, it would not be Muktzah if it dropped dead on Yontif. Time of the Kadisha, the Chulin Sharia. Says the Gemara Hanicha, that makes sense. Limar Berei Rav Yosef. Everything works. That's just the opposite. Before we were saying it was Hanicha Limar Bar Meimar. Now we're saying the opposite. Hanicha Limar Berei Rav Yosef B'Shmei Derav. But the Amar Cholakoy Rav Shimon Af B'Bali Chaim Shemesu Shebutarit, which means that even a healthy animal that drops dead on Yontif, Rabbi Shimon is matir, as if to say that the Bailam had in mind that maybe the animal would die and we'll feed its carcass to the dogs. Then everything fits into place. So the Mishnah is talking about Kodshim, because had it been Chulin, then Chulin is Re'uya, the carcass is Re'uya L'Klavim, it's not Muktzah. And the Mishnah reflects Shita Rav Shimon. According to the other version, that of Mar Bar Amema, who says that according to Rav Shimon, if the animal is perfectly healthy and it drops dead on Yontif unexpectedly, unanticipated, it's Muktzah. Even Rav Shimon agrees it's Muktzah. If that be the case, then what's the difference? Why does that Mishnah mention Behemas Kodshim? Michael and Meima, why didn't the Mishnah just mention any Behema? Even Behemas Chulin is Muktzah, because Reb Shimon admits that you never anticipate the death of a healthy animal. The Gemara answers, what's the case in our Mishnah? B'misukenes. It must be the case of an animal that was about to die going into Yontif, Ben Hashmashos, and he already anticipated its death, its imminent death, and he would feed its carcass to the animals. Divrei HaKol, in such a case, then Kol Achoti B'das Rabbi Shimon, everybody agrees that only in the case of a Sukenes, that's a case where it's not Muktzah according to Shimon, and nobody denies that. And whether or not you hold that Rav Shimon is Modeh in a healthy animal, that it's Muktzah if it dies unexpectedly on Yontif Shabbos, or if you hold that Rav Shimon is Matir even in a healthy animal, but everybody agrees that if the animal is deathly ill on Erev Shabbos, Erev Yontif, even Mar Bereid Rav Meimar would admit that Rav Shimon would be Matir, because Daitei Aliyah, he thinks and he intends to feed the carcass to the Klavim. And our Mishnah reflects the Shita of Rabbi Shimon. That's why it mentions the case of Behemas Kodshim, because of Behemas Chulin, if it's Mesukenes, then there's no Yisur Tiltul, because he anticipated already going into Yontif that the animal would die. The Mishnah on the bottom of Chav Zayin Amud Beis establishes the laws that reflect what's called Nirek Mekach, which means that certain things are prohibited on Yontif because it looks like you're buying and selling. For example, the Mishnah says, Ein nimnin ala behema lechatchila b'yontif. If we gather together as a group and we're going to go to the butcher and we're going to take an animal from the butcher and we're going to agree that we'll divide it up equally amongst our group, that already looks like mekach umemka, like a whole group of partners, because who could eat a full animal? And we get together, we buy an animal in partnership. But if on Erev Yontif we gather together, we go to the Tabach as a group, and you know what? On Yontif, we're going to divide it up. And now they don't determine money. They don't speak and mention anything about money. You'll pay so-and-so, you'll pay so. We'll just divide it up equally on Yontif, and we'll all contribute to pay the price of the tablet. That's mutter on Yontif. And the chiddush here is that even though they're going to divide up the animal into equal segments on Yontif, so that each party will get his share, that's still not considered like a Masechet, like what you would do on a weekday. And on Yontif, they could check this animal that they purchased as a group on Erev Yontif and divide up its meat. The Gemara says, "My ein nimnin." What does that mean, ein nimnin? At the beginning of the Mishnah, they can't get together to buy on Yontif. Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel ein poskim damim l'chatchila beim of Yontif. They cannot say, you know what? We're 5 people in our group, and the parah that you're selling us is worth 5 dinar. We'll each commit ourselves to pay 1 dinar. That's prohibited. That's already mekachu mem. That's already buying and selling, and it's prohibited on Yontif. So the Gemara is now medaik. So hechi avid. We know that people shecht animals on Yontif, and they divide up the animals amongst many people. How did that group form, and how did they agree to divvy up the animal in a way that's permissible? Amarav, what they could do is maybe shtei behemos. They're allowed to bring 2 animals that look pretty much the same. They're equal. They're both, cows that weigh the same, more or less. Umamidon zoetzilzu, they put 1 cow next to the other. The Omer, and the declaration is made by the seller, we'll call him the tabach, the butcher. Zokazu, do you realize that the shavius, the value of these 2 animals, is more or less equal? And therefore, tomorrow you'll pay me the value of this other animal. So they never actually mention the value that they're going to be paying, the amount of money. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned thusly in a Beitza, Lo Yomar Adam Lechavero. Person should not say to his friend on Yontif, Hareini Imcha Bisela. Let's buy this meat, and we'll each pay proportionate to a seller, whatever size we get for the portion. Also, let us say Hareini Imcha Bishtayin, or let's get 2 portions, and each one will be worth a seller, and each one of us will pay a seller. Avol Omerlo, what's allowed on Yontif is Hareini Imcha Lemechza L'Shlish Ravia. I'm going to be part of this group, and I'll get half of the meat, or a third of the meat, or a quarter of the meat, because they're not mentioning any dumim, how much they're going to pay. Once they mention the dumim, then it's prohibited on Yontif. Speaking of Yontif, let me wish you all a good Yontif and a Gemar Chasima Tova, good in Piska, good in Kvittel, and Daf Chav Ches. The Mirza Shem will be online very shortly on the YU Torah site, and on Isru Chag, that would be on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Tomorrow's Tuesday. On Wednesday, we'll pick it up on Chav Tes on 29. Okay, then? Thank you.
What time will that be on Wednesday?
Wednesday is at 8:30. We're
Okay,
back to regular.
Okay. Just go ahead.